Hello, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible.
Hello, everybody. So we are back for the first session of the 1 week ISTE AICTE sponsored induction refresher program on recent advances in civil engineering. Today's first speaker is Dr. Radhakrishna, professor and head RV College of Engineering, Bangalore. His topic is understanding of geopolymers. I would like to request our program coordinator, Dr. Sri Keshava, to present the profile of the speaker.
Hello, sir. Good morning. So, good morning, dear participants. So, I'm very much proud to present our honorable speaker of today, Dr. Radhakrishna, sir, HOD of Department of Civil Engineering, RV College of Engineering. So, former secretary of Indian Concrete Institute, Bangalore Center. Sir, have 28 years of teaching and research experience. Sir has successfully guided 8 PhD scholars and guiding 6 PhDs presently, and completed 57 MTech guided projects successfully, and also 26 B projects. He's published over 100 plus research papers in journal and conferences. So also a principal investigator for a DST project, nano mission project on nano geopolymers worth around 70 lakhs. He's a panelist for technical discussion in various TV channels. Is awarded as the best scientist by VTU Belagavi during September 2008. It's also chartered engineer of Institution E-Engineers of India. He's a member of Institution of India and also elected member of Managing Committee in ICA Karnataka section. He's a fellow member of Association of Consulting Civil Engineers. He's also NBA expert for accreditation of engineering colleges. He is also serving as a board of examiner and a member of board of studies in.
I could not hear. Hello? Hello? Hello, Keshava? Can you hear me? Others, please. Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just a minute, sir. Yes, sir. Just a minute.
Okay. Okay.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible now.
It's sir is a life member of Indian Concrete Institute, Mythic Society, Bangalore, Kannada Sahitya Parishad, Karnataka, and also Karnataka Arabindo Society, Karnataka Swadeshi Vignan Andolan, Indian Institute of World Culture. Sir also co-authored the textbook on eco-efficient masonry brick and blocks, design properties and durability by Elsevier Woodhead Publishers, UK. He's also for several journals reviewers by Elsevier. Also, sir also having interest in technology in ancient India and also concrete technology in particular reference to geopolymers. Editor, sir in editor-chief of iManagers Journal of Structural Engineering. He's also a member for peer review committee for various journals, includes case studies in construction materials, construction and building materials, Canadian Journal of Civil Engineering, the Indian Concrete Journal, Journal of Civil Engineering and Construction Technology, and such tech. So, sir also delivered invited talks in USA, Singapore, Dubai, and various places in India. The main thing is he's also a social activist, and like he's voluntarily donated blood for more than 66 times. It's an inspiration for young scholars like us. Sir, it's a very privilege for us you're having a speaker for this 1 week AICTE ISTE induction program. So wish you all the best, sir. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Keshava, for a kind introduction. The today's topic, first of all, I thank the authorities of Jyoti Institute of Technology, where my guru, Professor B. Venkata is there, for providing me an opportunity to present some of the things on geopolymer. I am doing research about this from last 15 years, and the findings which we got is from the PhD thesis of mine and my scholars. I acknowledge their contribution, namely Dr. G.S. Manjunath, Dr. Venugopal, and Dr. Vinod. And thank you very much. Today's topic is understanding of geopolymers. Some of you may be knowing what I tell today, but those who are very new, it will be just introduction. First, I'll go through the findings of some research of geopolymers. So if you have any questions after a gap of 50-55 minutes, please let me know. First of all, let us have some concept of cement concrete. Cement concrete, I know everybody knows that it will remain as popular material in future too, because it is very good in compression and is having many advantages. Uh, and the quantum of concrete can be judged like this. Per capita usage is next only to water. So much of water is being used every day. So much of concrete is being used every day on this earth. Unfortunately, each ton releases an equal amount of carbon dioxide, maybe 70% of carbon dioxide. So that's why we need to go for alternative material. Of course, let us know about Portland cement. The manufacture of Portland cement is more energy intensive because it consumes minimum of 4 gigajoules of energy per ton of cement, right? And it is a major ingredient of making concrete, and its shelf life is limited. And there are some other cementitious materials, of course, which may be industrial waste or marginal materials. Example: fly ash, GGBS, lime, gypsum, etc. So all these materials have the potential to serve as alternatives to ordinary Portland cement. So instead of disposing them in open land, using them in construction is the best ways to dispose and utilize. So now let us go back to the carbon credits. So the graph shows from 1750 to 2005, right? And recent statistics I don't have, sorry for that. This is the carbon emission only for gaseous fuels, and this is by the solid fuels, and this is by the liquid fuel. So if you see this, after 1950, there is a huge jump in the consumption or carbon liberation in the world. Of course, if you put together, this is the whole. So the talks are going on among the leaders of this world to reduce the carbon emission at least to the level of 1990. Our Prime Minister also have signed for this. So the responsibility lies on us and next future generation to reduce the carbon emission. So how it is possible? So it is possible by conserving the energy, by reducing the energy needs, recycling the energy, and we can go for alternate energy sources like nuclear, wind, geothermal, hydroelectric, solar, and fusion. All these things will not have any carbon emission. Wherever it is possible, let us make use of all these things so that we can reduce the carbon emission. Now, the next question is how it is possible in the construction industry. So it is possible only by reducing the OPC. So if you think of OPC, if you see on the y-axis, it is the replacement level of fly ash. I will tell you what is fly ash later. And on the x-axis, OPC itself is there, blended cement is there, high volume fly ash concrete is there, FALG and geopolymer. So OPC cannot have any fly ash, so it will be 0. Blended cement may have around 30, maybe these figures are approximate. And in case of high volume fly ash concrete, we can go up to 55, even 60. So it is by CanMat, Indian origin scientists at CanMat Canada. They have developed a new concrete called as high volume fly ash concrete in 1980s, wherein minimum of 50% of cement can be replaced by fly ash. This is called a high volume fly ash concrete. So I'm not talking about all these things now. So I'm talking about 100% replacement of cement like FALG and geopolymer. Of course, FALG I'm not going to discuss. This is not the topic today. The last one is geopolymer. So if you see the green color here, it is greenest material because it is having potential to replace 100% of cement. So we can manufacture cement concrete, cement mortar, or cementitious mortar, cementitious grout without using OPC, but by using fly ash or any other material. So that's why that indicates the greenest material. Now, let us know what is meant by geopolymer. It is the activation of natural materials like clay. So I'll tell you next slides. Clay is naturally available material. So that's called as geo, that means earth. And polymer is the repetition of same polymerization. So the word geopolymer exists due to this. And it's having low carbon footprints. So we must know geo is the earth and polymer is the repetition of the same sequence of chemical reaction. Here, since we use clay to begin with, so it is called as geopolymer. Nowadays, recent investigation or the research says we can use many materials, not only the Earth's crust. What is available? What is clay that is available in the Earth's crust? Now, the geopolymer is misnomer, but we can use it as alkali activated cement, of course. So here the person who is responsible for this technology, Joseph David Autis, is a French scientist. I met him in 2010. He came to India. So he postulated a theory on pyramids. He says the pyramids are formed in Egypt 4,500 years ago. People say it's controversial, but still let us take some points from him. So according to him, if you see the book, which is there, the pyramids, he clearly explains how pyramids are formed. They are not natural. They are man-made material, man-made structures. The Nile River, Egypt, there the pH was high. That means it was alkaline, and the clay which is available, or the soil which is available there, is rich in silica and alumina. So people used to mix the high alkaline water with the material which is rich in silica and alumina, and they used to expose to sunlight. So they made geopolymer. So that's what he says. Of course, there are challenges to his theory, but still it is worthwhile of reading, right? So this is how the concept of geopolymer. It's not new. It is very old concept. So let us know what is coal ash. I am curtailing the discussion on that because it is understanding only surface level. I'm talking about geopolymer. At the end of my talk, if you have any questions, you are welcome to ask. Let us know what is meant by coal ash. So in India, the electricity is generated at least by 65% of electricity is generated by coal burning only in thermal power plants. And the coal reserves in our Indian continent exceeds more than 100 years. So next 100 years, we don't any problem with the coal. So that's why fly ash will remain as the byproduct of thermal power station. We should always have the plans to use or dispose this. Otherwise, there will be health problems. If you go to any thermal power plant, there is 50% of the employees are only for ash handling. And this is the fly ash, typical fly ash which we procured from Raichur. It is the byproduct of thermal power station. Of course, the chemical. If you see the chemical analysis, it is rich in silica and alumina. It is finer than cement. Remember, means the size of particles of fly ash finer, less than the cement, and they are spherical in shape. See, if you see the sketch there, microstructure, you can see all, not 99%, all fly ash particles are spherical in shape. So it's having high potential to replace the cement. All of us know. Now let us see the classification of fly ash as per ASTM. If the calcium content is less than 5%, we call it as class of fly ash. Normally, the class of fly ash is produced by burning anthracite coal, and it is not self-cementitious. And of course, it is very common across the world. 90-95% of the ash produced on this earth is from burning of anthracite coal, belongs to class of fly ash. There is another fly ash which is very important, class C fly ash. The calcium content of class C fly ash will be more than 50%. So it is obtained by burning the lignite coal. Very, very expensive coal is lignite, and it is self-cementitious. And rarely, it's very rare, and it will have a lot of commercial values. Only Neyveli in Tamil Nadu, that is in Karnataka, sorry, in India, it's available. and it's having very, very high commercial value. So that's why normally people don't do the research on Class C because it's very expensive. We go for Class F. So in my discussion, if nothing is mentioned, it is from Class F fly ash only, which is very commonly available across the world. So these are the various codes used for the utilization of the fly ash for different making different products, say steam and all. Not necessary to go through in detail. Let us know about this slag. So what I told is GGBS. It is waste from ferrous industry. That waste that is obtained from ferrous industry is quenched, ground, and granulated. The resulting is called as GGBS, ground granulated blast furnace slag. So this slag is also rich in silica and alumina. Of course, in calcium also. This is the major difference between the fly ash and slag. In case of fly ash, class of fly ash, calcium will be less than 5%. In case of slag, calcium will be little high. What is metacoilin? This is another material. So it is obtained by burning the clay at very high temperature. So what is called as coilin is a clay. If you burn that coilin, it's called metacoilin. It's very highly reactive. Of course, it contains high amount of silica. It's also having potential to be replaced cement, and it's not economical because we have to heat the clay. But it's having potential to make geopolymer. I will tell you. Next comes silica fume. It contains more than 90% of silica. Of course, without silica fume, we cannot make high strength concrete. We need to add at least 5% of silica fume. I'll discuss this in a different way to use as ingredient for making geopolymer. It is finer than fly ash. Remember, cement is having some coarse size. Cement particles will have some coarse size. The fly ash is having finer particles, and the silica film is still finer. It's around 1 micron. Of course, it's available in condensed form, and it's also having high potential to replace the cement. And if you see the properties of fly ash and GGBS at RV College of Engineering, we have used 4 types of fly ashes, you can see. And lastly, we have GGBFS. And if you see the difference between fly ash and GGBS, it's only calcium content. See here, it's 37%, and all are less than 5%. This is a major difference between the GGBS and fly ash. That's why GGBS will be little light in color, fly ash will be dark in color because of the change of composition of calcium. And these are the ingredients of geopolymer. So we go for same aggregate, whether it is fine or coarse. Instead of cement, we go for fly ash or any material which is in silica and alumina. We use same water. Of course, we are going to use 2 additional extra chemicals called sodium silicate and sodium hydroxide. Both are chemicals we add and make the solution. So this is activation, some chemistry. Alumina silicates are dissolved, then polymerization will happen, and it will be in crystal form. You can see the structure. So this is the chemistry behind this. And water is very important in making geopolymer. It is used to make alkaline solution. We use water to mix the ingredients in concrete, but in case of geopolymer, we use alkaline solution. So this water is released during the polymerization. So if you add alkaline solution to make geopolymer, after adding water into alkaline solution to geopolymer, water is released and no curing is required. See, this is the difference between geopolymer and normal concrete. We need to wet the surface of the concrete to continue hydration or to cure. But in case of geopolymer, water is released in geopolymerization. So no question of any water curing in case of geopolymer. How to make? The process of making geopolymer is same as cementitious composites. What is meant by cementitious composites? It may be cement paste or cement mortar or cement concrete. Whatever the process that we use for making these 3, same process is used for making geopolymer, but there is change in ingredients. So instead of cement, we go for aluminosilicates. What do you mean by aluminosilicates? You can see here, playa, GGBS, silica fume, metacoil, these are all aluminosilicates because they are rich in silica and alumina. If you see the chemical composition of these typical binders, they are rich in silica and alumina. That's why they are called as aluminosilicates. We use them instead of cement. And I strongly propagate to use locally available materials which are rich in silica and alumina. It is different from different for different areas. Example, red mud. Red mud is available in various parts of the world. So if you use red mud, it's okay as long as it's having silica and alumina. So I request all the researchers to use locally available material which is rich in silica to make them to use them as base materials for making geopolymer. Now aggregate is same, binder different, aggregates is same. So water is converted into alkaline solution by adding sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate. So 8 to 14 molar, it's a concentration. I'll tell you next slide. So we use either sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate or potassium hydroxide and potassium silicate. We have two choices, but potassium hydroxide and potassium silicates are expensive compared to sodium. That's why people go for sodium hydroxide and sodium silicates. So here the sodium salts are dissolved in water to make alkaline solution. You can see there white liquid in the container. So now how the process? So what we do, it is a schematic representation. Sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate are mixed in water. Okay, and fly ash is added, aggregates are added, then we make concrete. Concrete can be used for making slab, beam, cube, cylinders, etc. So this is the process in making, and of course same thing in the schematic representation. Now how the strength is developed in case of geopolymer, all engineers are waiting for this only, right? So in case of class of fly ash, geopolymerization happens, of course not at the room temperature. This geopolymerization is possible only at elevated temperature, normally at 60 degrees Celsius. Please refer the material that is published by Professor B.V. Rangan of Curtin University, Australia. He is graduated from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. He settled in US, Curtin. There, he has written 3 volumes of geopolymer. Beautifully explains how geopolymer can be prepared by using class of fly ash at elevated temperature. 3 big volumes. All 3 are available online, free of cost, anytime. GC1, GC2, GC3. There he clearly explains. That's why if you add only fly ash, there will be geopolymerization. But you have to get cured at a higher temperature. But if you add GGBS, it is the strength development is not only by geopolymerization, it is the hydration. Here, thermal curing may be not required. So if you add together fly ash and GGBS, the strength development is due to geopolymerization and also hydration. So here, thermal energy is not all required. So this is blending is very popular across the world. Nobody go for only fly ash because we have to cure at elevated temperature. Next, I just told 8 to 14 molar in the previous slides. I want to discuss what is molarity. Molarity is nothing but the concentration of alkaline solution. That's all. You know, molecular weight of sodium hydroxide is 40 grams per mole, right? So if you take 1 liter of water and dissolve 40 grams of sodium hydroxide, it constitutes 1 molar, right? Because of molecular weight. To make 12 molar solution, we can multiply 40 to 12, you get 480 grams, and you can add in 1 liter, then it will become 12 molar solution. So various researchers say they start from 6 and stop at 14, right? And ratio of sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate also matters. Only sodium hydroxide may not be effective. People are fond of adding sodium silicate also for early reaction. So this is only about the molarity, right? Next. See, tap water, if you take and add sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate, that will become alkaline solution. You can see there the picture. Remember, this produces heat up to 80 degrees Celsius. Remember, very important. So those who are venturing into making alkaline solution, please be careful. It will be boiling at 80 degrees Celsius, and you have to stir to cool it. you can use the solution only after 24 hours. This is the convention because it will be very hot in the fresh condition. Next, we have to take some precautions. Unfortunate, I repeat, it is very unfortunate that the researchers, the publications, all good literature about the geopolymer, nobody reports about the precautions. So since I have myself worked in the laboratory, I have formulated after consulting the team of doctors. This alkaline solution is highly alkaline and very hot at early hours. So these two are very important, right? And we should not touch with the bare hand. You know what? We have to use protective measures. By chance, if you touch or if it falls on your skin, you lose the skin in minutes. So it takes very long time to heat, but nothing to worry. Then if at all it happens, if it falls on your say hand or anywhere in the skin, just immediately splash a jet of water. Nalli kala kite bidi on the affected area continuously. It will stops. Within minutes, you will become all right. But if you keep it as it is for more than 1 hour, you lose your skin. So if there is some problem persists, you have to go to doctor. So unfortunate, as I told you, many researchers cite this information. Of course, it is same. We can use sodium hydroxide silicate and mix fly ash alkaline solution. We use fly ash and mix fresh concrete. Then we can go for beams and all. Next, what is water cement ratio in this particular research? I call water as fluid. Means I don't use any water here. So instead of water, fluid is being used. So instead of cement, I'm going to use binder because it may be fly ash, it may be GGBS, it may be rice cash, it may be silica film, it may be metacolin water, it may be. So instead of water, I'm using fluid. Instead of cement, I'm using binder. So instead of water cement ratio, I call it as binder to fluid ratio. It's more meaningful, right? It is the ratio by weight, right? And of course, we can use mortar if it is the water cement ratio or the fluid binder ratio is 0.5 to 1.3, 0.5 to 3. And plastering if it is like that, and concrete if it is 0.3 to 0.6. So depending on the fluid binder ratio, we can use the material, or we can go for different water cement ratio for making different material. Next, what are different forms of geopolymer so far? So we can use paste. Paste means only binder and alkaline solution. If you add some amount of fine aggregate, it will become mortar. If you add some amount of coarse aggregate, it will become concrete, right? And if the mortar itself is very harsh, that can be used for making masonry. Understood? So we can use geopolymer paste, we can use geopolymer mortar, we can use geopolymer concrete, and we can use geopolymer masonry blocks. What is the paste? We add binder, there is fly ash and GGBS and alkaline solution. That's all. Now the result comes. See here. We have used 11 samples, GP1, GP2, etc. till GP11, wherein the fly ash GGBS combination is varied from 100, 0, 90, 10, etc. till 0 to 100. That means in the first case, fly ash is 100%, GGBS is 0. Second one, fly ash is 90. I'm slowly increasing the GGBS when compared to fly ash, right? And this is only the experiment program, and this is the result. If you see the left-hand curve, average on the y-axis is compressive strength, x-axis is age. So as the age increases, the strength also increases. So this is same as the cement composite. Many of the properties are similar to cementitious materials, right? Now, if you see this right-hand curve, it is compressive strength versus the fly ash GGBS content. So first one is fly ash, second one is GGBS. So if the fly ash is 100%, strength is 0, no activation. But if you GGBS is 100, maximum strength. That means as the GGBS content increases, there will be strength development in case of ambient curing conditions of geopolymer, right? I'll go to next. See here. So we have made some correlation between the strength and microstructure. So it is 1 day, 3 days, 7 days, 14 days, and 28 days. So here, strength at 1 day is 29 MPa. Next 3 days it is 3.3 MPa. 7 days it is 6.4 MPa, 14 days it is 14.2 MPa, and 28 days is around 20 MPa. So apart from the strength, age and strength, we also captured the microstructure of the geopolymer. So if you see these 5 microstructures, there is refinement of microstructure. So which is giving confidence of developing the strength. And if you see the molarity, so it is 6 molar, this is 8 molar, 10 molar, and 12 molar. That means this is the amount of sodium salts added to a particular solution. So that is called molarity. It is for 6, 8, 10, and 12. So for 6 molar, it is 2.6. For 8 molar, it is 4.8. 10 molar, it is 5.4. And 12 molar, it is 6.5. That means there is steady increase in strength with the molarity, right, at the given age. Next, what are the findings of the phase that we got? Really, the strength of paste is more, geopolymer paste is more than the OPC, right? And setting characteristics depends on many factors like water cement ratio, amount of GGBS, climatic conditions, etc. And of course, this can be strongly recommended to be used in the form of grout without curing. So if you requirement, the cracks can be filled, right? That's about the paste. Now, to the same paste, if you add fine aggregate, it will become geopolymer mortar, right? It looks like a cement mortar only because the color is same. And these are the samples which we are tested. So this is the mortar preparation 1:2, this is 1:1.5, and 90, 100 fly ash, 0 GBS, 90, 10, etc. Earlier, what I showed was paste. Now it is mortar, right? We have added fine aggregate. Next, this is the one. This is the graph showing the increase in strength with the age. With the fly ash and GGBS content at the given age. Average compressive strength. See here, as the GGBS content increases, strength increases, and of course comes down. So that means at this point there will be maximum strength. That means geopolymer should be, in case of geopolymers, if you want to get maximum strength, the GGBS content should be around 20 to 30%. This is proved long back. We verified in the laboratories. Next, the variation of compressive strength with molarity of sodium hydroxide. So this is average strength and this is the molarity, right? This is the strength development with the age, 7 days, 14 days, and 28 days, right? So this is for 8 molar, 10 molar, 12 molar, 14 molar, and 16 molar. So this is with respect to age. That means there is increase in strength and also increase in the age. This is the increase in the age and increase in the molarity, right? Next, variation of compressive strength with mortar preparation. Mortar, same thing almost. So increases with this age. And these geopolymer composites can be broadly classified into partially saturated and fully saturated. If the water cement ratio is less than 0.3, it is partially saturated because there will be air, right? So if the water cement ratio is less, there will be air. That's why it's called 3-phase system, and it can be used as mortar. Means we don't use any coarse aggregate, only fine aggregate, and they are suitable in making the blocks, and it requires compaction, right? On the right hand side, it is fully saturated. Water cement ratio is more than 0.3. There will be no air here, only solid and liquid, and concrete will be there, and it is suitable in making structural material. It is more than 20 MPa. So this partially saturated mortar can be used for making the bricks and blocks. This fully saturated can be used for making the concrete. Even in case of cement, also same. Little change in the water cement ratio. So we have used geopolymer blocks. We have done both blocks and concrete. In case of geopolymer blocks, it can be either manufactured manually or with hydraulic press, right? So some were UT cured, some were ambient cured without water. Of course, both without water. So these are the pictures of mixing. We weigh the material, mix it like cement and sand. We add alkaline solution, mix it. This is a high harsh mix, and this is the Mardini, right? And this is how we compact. So this machine was developed at IISc by Professor K. Jagdish and his team, and we can easily make blocks without any electricity. See here, we can add the material and we can press and we can eject like this. So this is the ready-made block, compressed block or masonry block. You can mark it. You can see that we have kept for curing, and of course there will be air here. It's a three-phase system. So we can test and the crack, and we can make such blocks using static vibrocompaction too, right? See here, we have used different mold here and pour the material, compress vibrocompaction, and you can see pure blocks, right? So many pure blocks. So we can use for mass production also. That means whatever the process and equipment that are used for cement industry can be used by geopolymer also, just by change of ingredients. See here. So you can see, and for the purpose of research, we have prepared different size and different shape of blocks just for recording purpose. So we call it as pivot blocks. This we call it as compressed blocks. See here, these are the sizes. Of course, in case of ambient cured blocks, ambient cured means no water curing, no thermal curing, no thermal input, no traditional curing, no demolding, only compress and keep it steady, right? So it's very fast in development. So now let us know about heat cured geopolymer blocks. I told you that the geopolymer research done by Kattin and his team, B.V. Rangan and team at Kattin University, they have reported only about heat cured geopolymer only. So we have just done some exercise, some experiment on heat cured geopolymer because we used only fly ash, right? So heat cured means it's at 60 degrees Celsius for 24 hours. Ambient cured means it's open air. Now, this is the result of heat cured geopolymer blocks. On the x-axis, it is the fluid binder ratio. On the y-axis, it is compressive strength. So it is from 0.15 to 0.225. So as the water cement ratio or the fluid binder ratio increases, strength decreases. Here, less than 0.15, we could not make mortar at all because it cannot be, it is not possible. And beyond this 0.225, we cannot add, we cannot compress because it becomes saturated. So that's why this is in the range of 0.15 to 0.225. Sometimes it will go up to 0.3, right? So here the Abraham's law is being followed, which is facilitated by Abraham in 1918, which is there for concrete, cement concrete. It applies to polymers also. Next ambient cured. So we have used 14 parameters for ambient cured geopolymers. Age from 1 to 180 days. Fly ash, 4 types of fly ash, 2 types of alkaline activators. Ratio of binder to aggregate 1:1, 1:2, 1:3. Degree of saturation is 40 to 60%. Molarity of alkaline solution is 8 to 14. Fine aggregate use was sand, quarry dust, pond ash, etc. Temperature was 25 to 80 degrees Celsius. And we have used various binders like fly ash, GGBS, silica film, metacoil. So, and also next, if you see the strength development here, this is very interesting. This is the strength development of ambient cured blocks. And the y-axis, it is compressive strength, and the x-axis, it is the age. So if you see here, there is steady increase in strength, rapid increase in strength from 1 day to 7 days. After that, the slope reduces because the increase in strength is less. There is increase in strength, but rate of increase in strength reduces. And also we can say at the age of 1 day, it is possible to get 3.5 MPa. As per the code, if you want to have brick of 3.5 MPa, that's enough. So we get normally 3 months, 4 months for fire clay bricks. In case of concrete, we may have to wait for 10 days or 15 days. But in case of geopolymer, we get the strength of 3.5 MPa at the first day itself. So it is very fast in curing. This is the advantage of geopolymer blocks. And of course, we can develop strength of blocks up to 30 MPa. Rarely we get burnt brick strength of 30 MPa, except in 2 places. One is from Orissa and another is from Andhra Pradesh, where is the clay is very good. In rest of the country, we will not get more than 5 to 10 MPa. So in geopolymer concrete, geopolymer masonry blocks, we can get strength of the masonry block up to 30 MPa or more, right? And stress strain characteristics, it's almost same as a masonry block. So we have normalized the curve, and you see here, and we have tested 4 blocks. In all the cases, the strain is 0.0004, etc. And this is the compressive strength, and this is secant modulus 17,000 something. And of course, we tested it in the elevated temperature for 2 hours. So we kept the blocks for 2 hours in 200 degrees Celsius, 2 hours in 400 degrees Celsius, 2 hours in 600 degrees Celsius, 2 hours in 800 degrees Celsius. And even in case of 800 degrees Celsius, the average strength loss was just 8%. I want to stress, I want to drive your attention that in case of burn brick or concrete blocks, after 400, it will disintegrate. It cannot exist only, but geopolymer can sustain up to 800 degrees Celsius. We could not connect beyond 800 because we don't have the equipment. So only 8% loss. So we can conclude that geopolymer is very highly resistant to temperature. Next, durability test, ASTM code we have used. It's a water absorption 2.4% and strength of mass loss is equal to just 2%. That means it's very durable. Of course, after preparing or manufacturing the concrete blocks, and we want to go for masonry. So for that, we have used bricks, ordinary bricks, solid blocks, and hollow blocks, 3 types of. And after testing them individually, we have tested the wallets also, right? After wallets, we construct the building also. So I'll explain in sequence. Please I'll draw attention for 10, 24 minutes. First of all, we have constructed a wallet of brick using 8 molar solution, and mortar was 1:6 cement, right? In between the masonry block, river sand was used, and bed joint was 10 mm thick, right? So dimension of the wallet is 1.1 meter, 1.105 meters, 1.165 meters, and 1.0 here. And HBT ratio is 0.32, right? So of course, stretcher bonded geopolymer bricks. You can see this. The schematic representation is actual picture. So we at RV College of Engineering, we have the facilities to test the wall up to 3 meters. We have Hoodco Research Center. So we have 3 loading frames wherein we can test the wall up to 3 meter height, 3 or 4 meters, in fact. So these are the brick wall. We have constructed this and we applied the load like this, right? And we have used this demo gauge to measure the modulus of elasticity of the wall, right? Of course, this is for solid block. Same thing. Earlier it was brick. This is a solid block, and you can see the cracks here after testing the wallet. And this is by the hollow block. You can see here hollow block, and this is the one we use the demo gauge. So for all the wallets, we have determined the load carrying capacity at the axial load carrying capacity at the eccentric load, and compressive strength and modulus of elasticity, so that we can build the confidence among the users who use this for making the construction better. Of course, in case of hollow blocks, the axial loading strength was 2.31 hollow blocks, and this is for axial loading. This is for eccentric loading. So you cannot get even 1 MPa in case of solid blocks. So in case of hollow blocks, we are getting higher strength. Of course, this is the typical stress strain curve. And this is after that, we want to go for construction of a building. So luckily, we got opportunity to construct a building, one among 100. Constructed one typical building, and we could not plaster it, only painting, and kept it open without plastering, without roof for 24 months, 2 seasons. And see what the result. See here, no change in dimension of the brick walls after 2 years. Brick edges sharp, no erosion, no pitting, Of course, very less water absorption, no distress, right? Even after 2 years, there was no sign of any deterioration of the walls of the geopolymer. And the roof was casted, of course, after 24 months because we could not sustain the pressure from the government. So it has to be delivered to a person who is allotted. So finally, we went for casting of the slab. So we kept open for 24 months. And it is in winter, it was little warm inside. So thermal comfort was very good compared to the concrete blocks. Now this is about the paste, mortar, and masonry blocks. Finally, I'll quickly conclude in 4 or 5 minutes. It is geopolymer concrete. The geopolymer concrete consists of fly ash, GGBS, fine aggregate, coarse aggregate, and alkaline solution. The look is same. It's almost like concrete only, right? Cement concrete only, but it is geopolymer concrete. So this is how we have used GC1, GC2 up to GC6, wherein we have used 100% fly ash and 10% GGBS, 80% fly ash and 20% GGBS, etc. Of course, the fluid binder ratio was 0.65 and 0.75. Why we are changed? Because we kept the slump as 100 plus or minus 10 mm, right? So that's why there is the variation in the cement, what's fly ash fluid binder ratio, right? And this is the strength development. So for density for geopolymer concrete was 2424 to 2516, and normal concrete is 25 to 25. That means almost same. So density or the mass, the specific gravity of concrete, both the concrete, geopolymer and normal concrete, is almost same. In fact, geopolymer will be marginally less, of course, not too much. And this is the compressive strength development. As the fluid, as the GGBS content increases, strength increases. And this is how the with age there is an increase in strength, right side. And of course, normally we will not stop finding only compressive strength. We find the other mechanical properties like split tensile strength, etc. So we wanted to conduct split tensile strength using these prisms or cylinders. It's almost the relation between the split tensile and compressive strength was almost same, right? So this is how it's around 4 MPa. Here also it is around 4 MPa. This is increase in GGBS content. This is with the age, right? This is split tensile strength. Flexural strength also that we conduct using the beam. You can see here it's around 6 MPa. So that means the same trend whatever we have observed in normal concrete is appeared in case of geopolymer concrete also, right? Next, shear strength, right? This is also around 4 MPa. So compressive strength, split tensile strength, shear strength. Next, impact. We make a ball to fall and see when number of blows that cause failure. It's around, see here, impact energy around 1600 Newton meter, right? It's very high. Of course, pull-out set test also. So since it's new material, we want to make sure that the concrete will have good bondage with the steel. If at all we are using as RCC, we have to insert the steel bars. So then there should be good bonding between the steel and concrete. So we wanted to check the bond with the pull-out strength. It's little more than or equal to normal concrete. So nowhere it is inferior to cement concrete, right? So this is the compressive strength, typical stress strain curve, right? It is also same. So to conclude, before concluding, I'll summarize. I told about the importance of concrete, the importance of reducing the cement, and then various alternatives for making concrete. And then we introduced new material called geopolymer. Then we discussed about the ingredients. We discussed about the geopolymer paste, geopolymer mortar, geopolymer masonry blocks, concrete, and then we are concluding. Of course, before concreting, we have used wallets, walls, and the building. Right? To conclude, we can say geopolymers can be developed in line with the Portland cement products. Remember, we need not have any new methods, only ingredient change, right? And it will be having high compressive strength and durable, and we can use them for special applications like precast industry, fast grouting, high early strength masonry units, and lining of furnace, because it will have very high resistance to thermal environment. In case of geopolymer concrete, it will have good slump, good compressive strength, split tensile strength, flexural strength, impact, and shear. So it is possible to cure them without OPC, and without curing. That means just cast and keep it ready. Right? Thank you. I conclude my presentation, but if you have any questions, I think you are welcome,
Yes.
sir.
Yes, sir. We have, sir, am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir.
That was a very exhaustive presentation. That has made us to know very good things about the geopolymer concrete. And of course, we have a couple of questions from the participants. I would like to take up on some questions
Yes, please.
from the participants. Yeah. Uh, Participants, please type message in the chat box so that like we can ask the same for the speaker. So in between, before we get a couple of questions from the chat box, so we have a couple of questions also from the participants who are in the house.
Yes, sir.
Sir, what is the scope for what is the roadway for implementation of geopolymer concrete in especially in India? How it would be implemented where the usage is very limited, sir?
Yeah, this is the normal question which I get everywhere. This concrete cannot be used for all the applications because of the economy, because salts are very expensive, sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate. So that's why it can be used only for special applications like fire resistance, fast curing, and if at all you are very happy with the sustainable construction without any thinking of economy, can be used. But at the same time, we can find the locally available material which is rich in silica and alumina, then I think it will be very useful. And in Australia, it is very common to use geopolymer. In fact, they are constructing bridges, they are constructing buildings and other things.
Okay, sir, we have a question from a participant online. What is the difference in workability of geopolymer and the regular concrete?
Workability means the method of measuring workability remains same. Only concrete is different, that's all. So if you use more fly ash, more alkaline solution, workability will be more. So depending on the material, whatever we get for making geopolymer, and depending on various parameters like fly ash, fluid binder ratio, etc., we can measure the workability. That's all. So around 25 to 30 mm is enough for payment, and rest all we can have 100 or 120 or whatever it may be, like other concrete.
Sir, we have another question.
Yes, sir.
Why does structural strength decrease upon the addition of fly ash while tensile strength increases, sir?
So this is, I think, they are not very clear under what circumstances actually. See here, we can take compressive strength as the what is that important one, right? Or the index property. Compressive strength is index property. Rest all mechanical properties depends on the compressive strength normally. That exists even in case of geopolymer concrete also, right? So in fact, we should study it. This statement may not be true always. It depends on various things like the particles of fly ash, the size of particles of fly ash, composition of fly ash, curing conditions, and etc. So based on that, we can have detailed study. It's not always true. The flexural strength decreases upon the addition of fly ash filler while tensile strength decreases. It may not be true. In one case, it may be true. We have to find the reason. Mute them, please.
Yes.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, sir. I have another question. Sir, why do cement industries they charge the same price of even when they have scope of adding fly ash as a byproduct to produce the blended cement? Even they are selling it the same the blended cement in the same price of the regular one, sir.
Yeah. It is social unacceptance. When the soil stabilized blocks were introduced in the 80s, the technology was good. Credit goes to the team led by Professor K.S. Jagdish at IISc. In fact, technology is good, but the use of technology was very bad. In fact, we had to go for up to 10 to 15% of cement. They added only 2% of cement and say it is not working. Similarly, if you add more GGBS or fly ash, it is called blended cement. Actually, rate reduces. If I sell the cement for the lesser rate, people think that it is not good. It's not having good quality. It is no. They say it's not a good product, and people always go for a product which is of high cost. That's the only social stigma. We being engineers, we propagate the blended cement, especially for masonry and plastering. For making concrete for structural purposes, of course, if you use blended concrete, you may have to cure for more days. That's all, nothing else. But we should propagate that later strength of blended cement concrete is high compared to concrete with only OPC.
Sir, I have one question. Most of the time, the combination of GGBS with other resource material like fly ash and metakaolin shows free lime precipitation on the surface of the concrete.
Very good.
What is the effect of yeah?
So to begin with,
What
it
is the effect
happens.
of it and how to resist it?
Yeah, it is there. It is there. I have also noticed. Calcium will deposit as white patches at the surface, but if you wash it once, it will go. It will not come for the second time. If there is excess calcium, it may reappear for once more, but it will not reappear again and again. So it is a disadvantage. We cannot do anything because it's a natural process. We can wash because we don't occupy the home or any structure within 1 month or so. We can wash, or if it is a structure exposed to the atmosphere, 1 or 2 rains, it will take care, but it will not be forever.
Sir, why we use two alkaline solution to prepare the geopolymer concrete?
No, we don't use two alkaline solution. We use one. No, we use one alkaline solution with two different sodium salts, sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate. So if you use only sodium hydroxide, the effectiveness is very less. Professor David Avitis and Rangan and others, they have invented that if you add, in fact, there is some research in which they use only sodium hydroxide. That's not wrong, but depending on the situation, we can do that. Of course, trials are required.
Sir, one last question for this session, sir. So we have witnessed geopolymer cement in Australia. So when can we expect in India, sir?
I expected by this time. I think Professor Rajamane is best person to answer this question because he has personally supervised RMC plant using geopolymer concrete for making the roads. We can use it in India, but social acceptance is very slow. Even any material, any change in India, it will take very long time. Only free schemes announced by the government are popular in India. Rest all technology is very slow. I think we being engineers, we should propagate this. I'll add more. Normally, the source of fly ash is varying from place to place. Means the quality of fly ash varies from source. So the quality of fly ash may not remain same. So if you take care of that, I think this technology will go ahead. So it depends on engineers who prepare the concrete.
Thanks for the informative session and thanks for your patience in answering all the queries and questions of the participants. We honestly and sincerely thank you from the Department of Civil Engineering for your informative session, sir. And we conclude this morning session over here. And we request participants to post their questions, which we can email in the future also. If sir they can make a note of the email ID as well as the phone number, so we can also put them the questions. If anybody is not able to,
I want to make one announcement. I can send this PDF form to you if you send me email ID. I can share to Sri Keshava, and same presentation is given by me in various places. I think the number of views is more than 7,000 in YouTube. So you can use this for the circulation. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.